and Latin America is being subjected to serious pressures right now, and many countries are being subjected to serious pressures. And that is a reality. We cannot ignore it or pretend it does not exist. So let me tell you what I think our answer should be. With two colleagues, with Carlos Fortin and Carlos Ominami, we have just published a book. It's called Active Non-Alignment for Latin America, a Doctrine for the 21st Century. And in this book, which was published in Chile in Spanish last November, will be published in English in London later this year, what we argue is that Latin American countries should not let themselves be pressured into siding either with Washington or with Beijing. That what they should do is look out for their own interest and say, this is what we need, this is what we're going to aim for, and that is what is going to happen. And it seems to me, this book has been reviewed very widely. We have launched it in half a dozen countries. It has generated an enormous debate. And there is a revival today, in today's world, that we see it also with the war in Ukraine. There's a revival, there's a rebirth of the notion of non-alignment, that you don't have to take sides between the superpowers. You look for your own way. And we call it active non-alignment. Why? Because we argue that it has to be a proactive attitude, looking for our own interest, not as a defensive position, but rather as an offensive, active position, looking out for our own interests. And in today's world, with what has been called the emergence of the Asian century, the emergence of what some people refer to as a post-Western world, in which the economic action is shifted from the North Atlantic to the Asia Pacific, what the World Bank has called the wealth shift, the fact that there are more billionaires in Beijing than there are in New York City. That, it seems to me, reflects the world we live in today and the possibilities that are open to Latin American countries.
But Ambassador Heine, do you think active non-alignment can happen in the real world?
Well, let me tell you the following. It is already happening. This is what reviewers of the book have pointed out. Let me give you an example. The position that countries like Brazil and Argentina have taken on the issue of the war in Ukraine. They have refused to back the suspension of Russia in the Human Rights Council. They refuse to back the suspension of Russia's observer status within the OAS. Between Mexico and Brazil, they make more than half the population of Latin America. So it is already happening. It is not a question of some sort of utopian proposal. It is happening on the ground.